All right, it is a Monday, the 22nd of July, 2024. This is a morning cafe. Maneno mingi ya kuzungumzia leo. Biden is out.
Oh yes. Camilla might be, Harris might be coming
we have
in.
to wait and see.
Might be, yes.
We'll be looking at that and a lot more. Yes, this is Monday. Siasa, Gen Z, protest, enough is enough. All that and more coming up right here on Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are?
Oh yes, and I'm usually Stanley Yeringita. You're about to have a marvelous Monday morning right here, all the way until Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Nitakuwa mtindo. And this particular day, this is the kind of panel that you're going to be expecting, the power panel.
Oh, yes. Philip Kisi has sent his apologies, but Honorable Dr. Mombing Garu, Samuel Pogisio and Kipruto Rapkirwa will be in studio to try and discuss and decipher what's really happening with President William Ruto's cabinet. Yes, now that 6 of the former guys are back.
Oh yes. Because it's a Monday, we're going to be discussing matters health and just getting into discussing vitu za maneno ya afya ya macho, the importance of eye care, maswala ya refractive errors. It is actually one of the most common vision impairments. So we'll be discussing that tuone how practically maneno ya macho inakuanga. Before that, rather even after that, we'll be getting into men's mental health talk with Nancy Nyambura, psychologist at MSF Eastern Africa. It is one of those conversations that we still need to be having.
All right.
Into the headlines.
Raila this way, Raila that way. It sounds like a song I know. That's the headline on the front page of...
Bend this way.
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
This way, that way.
Okay. Mina Julia is
my way. Raila this way, Raila that way. That's the front page of the Standard this morning. We'll be looking at that. And incidentally, the image of Raila Odinga is back on the front pages. So we'll be discussing what exactly is this former Prime Minister doing.
On the Daily Nation, enough is enough. Ruto warns Gen Zs.
Hiyo ni onyo.
Ile kidole.
All right.
Kwenye gazeti la People Daily.
No cash for exams. That's a big headline on the front page. This is a very different headline from what we're seeing on the other dailies. And we'll be looking at that later on. But yes, enough is enough. Also features on the front page of the People Daily.
On the Star, they go with the new demos. Raila Odinga angry. Ruto talks tough. Raila coils, angry Ruto talks tough.
Very long headline there for a Monday. A very nice photo of the president and one of his CS nominees, Davis Chirchir, on the front page of this paper.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, Gen Z mnikome. Si maneno yetu hayo, maneno ya Rais William Ruto pale. Umeweka ile kidole
tusizoeane.
Kidole kimoja.
Business Daily, microfinance banks suffer record loss as loans shrink. Matters business there on the Business Daily. We'll come back and take a look at what exactly they're talking about.
Oh yes. Regionally, Uganda fuel still most costly in the region. They say higher logistics and pipeline costs have negated the impact of lower premiums that Uganda National Oil Corporation got from Vitol Bahrain.
And they thought that bypassing Kenya would make their fuel cheaper. Well, it's not really working. On the front page of the East African, they also make mention of what's happening in Rwanda. President Paul Kagame, it is. Remember the last edition of this paper, which is a weekly paper, the headline looked like it had predicted what would happen in the elections. Yes, Paul Kagame won with 99. He garnered 99.15% of the votes. And yes, he is a president. That features on the East African this morning.
Our president is also on the front page of the East African. They say Ruto's fresh headache on cabinet choices. He's selected 11 members, promising to form a broad-based government in the face of protests.
Right.
And much more on that paper. Still now on regional matters. In your gazeti la Daily Monitor.
Diplomats open casino at embassy. Only in Uganda. The External Security Organization is investigating circumstances under which top Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials imported equipment that was later used for gambling activities inside the consulate in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. These are Ugandan envoys in Dubai.
Yeah.
They opened a casino right inside the embassy. Very interesting. And they make mention, this daily makes mention of what's happening in the US, why US President Joe Biden dropped out of election race. I don't think we've seen this captured on most of our dailies in Kenya.
I think probably People Daily.
Only on the People
has,
Daily, I think,
yeah.
but the other dailies went to bed much earlier. But yes, on the front page of the Daily Monitor, that story is there. I think it is key because our president was in the US just the other day, and he was named, Kenya was named a non-NATO ally. What does it mean once Biden leaves? Because now definitely it means that this is the end of Biden administration.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But something interesting that even as Kenyans, you're going to also be focusing on, war of words over planned protests. So apparently in Uganda, a section of the young people there have planned demonstrations tomorrow, and the agenda is they're marching to Parliament. Some very key interesting things. In Parliament also, MPs are resuming after short recess, similarly to Kenya as well. And both presidents, Uganda as well as Kenya, they are blaming foreigners for this.
Well, should be expected. The only difference is that in Uganda, there's a face that they put even on the front pages of who is actually leading these protests. They're saying we are coming.
Similarly, even the police
saying
there,
we'll crush it.
just like in Kenya.
Alafu wanasema munikome.
Anawauliza si mmeshiba huku.
Iko shida gani?
Shida ni gani, by the way?
That's in Uganda.
Right. Still in Uganda, on the New Vision,
Museveni directs on payroll probe. President orders crackdown on accounting officers. He's still trying to fight corruption. And I think also something interesting, even this daily managed to put that US poll, Joe Biden drops out, highlight on the front page. But I think the story of interest is that picture on the front page there. Even my director is struggling to fit it onto the screen. They say, meet Karamoja's tallest man. Jamaa tushana hii gazeti front page yote. Where that guy is tall. Karamoja. But they are known to have some of the tallest people.
So, akiona manzi yake hapo, the girlfriend, itakuwa long distance relationship.
Well, interesting news coming from Uganda there.
In Tanzania, kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi, ushirika wa rushwa, sema madereva na makondakta wa dalala wasimulia wanavyokuamuliwa fedha na trafiki, wadai ndio utaratibu wa kila siku. Chama chao chasema hakina malalamiko rasmi ya rushwa. Kamanda usalama barabarani yafunguka, TAKUKURU ikitoa onyo. Rushwa basically ni bribe tu.
Bribe, ushirika wa rushwa. Matters corruption and bribery, and it's linked to the police force and the public service vehicles.
Something very similar to Kenya.
Yes, we are used to this. I think
it's a big news.
It's a culture. We can't even put it on the front page. We know it happens.
And finally, on the front page of the Citizen, gazeti la the Citizen.
Why number of CNG stations remains low. Now CNG is compressed natural gas. Yes. The high cost involved in the construction of compressed natural gas filling stations is hampering the setting up of the facilities in Tanzania, according to industry players. Now, do we have this in Kenya? Compressed natural gas, this is something totally different, but that's what features on the front page. Okay, our president also features on the front page of the Citizen. Ruto offers Raila party 5 cabinet posts amid row. It's there on the top strip, and we have the images of President William Ruto and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on the front page of the Citizen in Tanzania.
Interesting matters there from the headlines. Let's take a look at the traffic to see how barabara itakuwa.
All right, for Monday it's looking, this is very typical. At Pangani it's already red, meaning traffic already building up from Kiambu Road and Thika Road, but at least both roads, Thika Road and Kiambu Road, are green all the way. It's only the bottleneck that has an issue, meaning you can still get to town in record time right now. But this is typical traffic. Also Jogoo Road looking very normal. Instances of slow traffic there next to, once you get out of Buruburu and towards Makadara, Mbotela there, next to this road, Likoni Road, that roundabout to the St. Stephen Jogoo Road Church and City Stadium roundabout as well. So yes, Traffic is back to normal, not what we saw last week on Thursday or even Friday. So Jogoo Road looking very normal. So come on, Nakwanga, we calculate it takes you 45 minutes. It will take you 45 minutes to get to town.
Yeah.
Very predictable. When it comes to southern part of the city, this is Mombasa Road, areas around Imara Daima, all the way past Next Gen, past Capital Center, all the way into the CBD. It's looking good. So far, so good. It's looking green all the way. Langata Road too, looking good. All the way past the Ulinzi Sports Complex, past Uhuru Gardens and Wilson Airport, as well as Mbagathi Way is looking good for those who call it Raila Odinga Highway as well. That road is good so far. Let's take a look at Ngong Road. From Junction Mall all the way past Prestige Plaza, nothing much to report there. Of course, there's a T-junction there next to Prestige Plaza. That's usually a problem because of the lights, but nothing beyond the ordinary. All the way into town is looking good. Finally, Wayaki Way. Wayaki Way all the way from Mountain View down past Nairobi School, Spring Valley, all the way into Westlands. It's looking good. Nothing much to report. So yes, it is very normal Monday traffic this morning. Fika kazini.
Oh yes. Na tuone kama venye utafika kazini, how you'll be wearing, courtesy of the weather updates, and see how, first off, right here in Nairobi, over the weekend, tumesema chances of it you seeing some light showers is going to be quite high. Let's see if that is the same. Even as of today, they're saying 14 degrees Celsius as at now. And this might just continue getting warmer, but then cloudy as well. Some 24 degrees as at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. there.
That's much warmer.
Much warmer there. Lows of 12 degrees Celsius. So it is going to be as similar as what you experienced last week. That is in Nairobi. If you're in Laikipia, chances of... right, tuone kama itaendelea ku load.
Imesikia baridi. I think Laikipia, there's a lot of cold this morning.
Oh yes, oh yes. But then even as the weather band says, I think it was on the front page of the Star, the cold, intermittent cold might be reducing, and then you do expect...
it's getting warmer.
Yes, so some dry conditions are expected in parts of Nairobi as well. Tuone Laikipia venye itakuwa inakaa 16 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms getting into the day, the better half of the day, 22 degrees Celsius, lows of 14, so that is how it is going to be. Let's finally see in West Pokot, into the northern bits, if it is going to also be around the same. 14 degrees Celsius, some thunderstorms as well, 18 degrees Celsius, 19 degrees Celsius, thunderstorms. If you're in West Pokot, prep yourself for
chilly weather, because highs of 19 the entire day.
Yeah, that is how things are going to be looking like when it comes to the weather. Also how things are going to be looking like when it comes to the diary for today, a number of events. It is actually going to be one of those very busy days as we get into a news diary. First off, a news diary. The short recess by members of the National Assembly concludes today. So the House proceeded for a short recess from the June 26th and is expected to resume tomorrow. So we will be anticipating on that. Even for our news bulletins this particular day, we'll be giving you an intro of what is expected. On the next page, it is search for the next Deputy Inspector General. 8 police bosses, including the Acting Deputy Inspector General of Kenya Police, Eliud Lagat, have been shortlisted for the position of DIG by the National Police Service Commission. So today, the 8 candidates are set to appear before the Commission at the Kenya School of Law today for the interviews. We'll be telling you about that. Something else that you need to know, Kenyans have until today to submit their views on their new budget following the rejection of the financial bill. So according to a notice published on local dailies a week ago, any written memorandum on the supplementary estimates should be hand-delivered to the office of the clerk in Parliament buildings or emailed to be received on or before 5 p.m. And finally, on the final page there, 5 fraudsters, including a serving police officer who were nabbed on Friday while undertaking a fake search operation at the Kitui County Director of Revenue, were apprehended on Friday and will be arraigned today. So we wait to see how that will be happening. That and much more in our news bulletins on both, even on our digital platforms. Right now though, today in history.
Right, let's take a look at the dailies. Raila this way, Raila that way. That's the front page of the Standard, and I think this is the best headline I've seen this Monday. Raila this way, Raila that way. Watermelon. Now, this tag watermelon, how do you... Very interesting that Raila Odinga is now being referred to as a watermelon. This is the front page of the Standard. From an astute defender of democracy and human rights, today opposition leader's words cannot be taken to the bank since he's bound to change his mind again and again. On protests, he seems to be blowing hot and cold. That story is on page 5. They juxtapose that headline with another one. They say Raila this way, Raila that way, as Gen Z youth plan more demos on the front page, right below the story about Raila Odinga this way, Raila that way. Yes, they have an image of protesters marching along Kenyatta Avenue in Nakuru City recently, and they've planned more protests this week, starting tomorrow.
And there's one of the cartoons, or one of the local dailies is really similar to this headline. We'll be getting to see which one.
Okay. Yes, so Raila's back and forth, changing stance. That is the front page of the Standard. The other story, of course, given prominence on this page is the president's plan to crack down on sponsors of protests. President William Ruto has warned alleged sponsors of anti-government protests, challenging them to come forward and give him alternatives to his leadership. That story is on page 7. Also of interest for Kenyans is a race to fill police boss slot begins. 8 senior officers will face an interview panel beginning today as the government seeks to fill Deputy Inspector General positions. Interesting. More highlights on the top strip. Camel meat that turned to farmers' worst nightmare. In the health pages, my struggle with bipolar disorder. That's in the health and science pullout inside the Standard. Tough rules for coffee auction, and finally March to East Africa Games gathers momentum. Let's flip the paper. See you in Paris at Olympics. That's the headline there as we continue the countdown to the Paris 2024 Olympics, and an image there of Kenya's Beatrice Chebet celebrating after winning women's 5,000 meters final at Doha.
She's only 24 years old.
Wow.
Gen Z and
anaweza toka mbio.
Anaweza toka mbio.
Well.
Anafanya flag yetu inapepea huko juu.
All right, that's Matters Sports, and that's the Standard this morning.
From the Standard to the Daily Nation, see how they go with enough is enough. Ruto warns Gen Zs. A day to tomorrow's planned anti-government protests. President William Ruto issued the strongest warning yet, vowing to crush what he termed as tyranny of anonymous, faceless, formless, sponsored people out to plunge Kenya into anarchy. The president's tough talk sets the stage for major clash between police and protesters. Kule chini, Kenyans linked to 14 billion cash shillings Israeli tender scam. Where? For 10 years leading to 2018, officials from an Israeli contractor would jot down transactional details of kickbacks paid to Kenyan government officials to secure lucrative road contracts. That little black book could now open a Pandora's box in Kenya. The headlines, Kule Juu, turmoil in Raila campus allies eye cabinet jobs. More coverage is on page 5, where they say top ODM leaders are divided on whether or not to join a broad-based government promised by President William Ruto after he dismissed his cabinet. It has now emerged that some leaders are concerned about Odinga's delay in presenting his list to Dr. Ruto, with some party stalwarts said to be ready to accept ministerial offers even without Raila's blessings. And it seems even the Citizen just went, they picked this, they had a different angle to this, saying that ODM party has already been given some cabinet jobs.
Yes.
List pale, some party leaders.
People are very excited about the prospect of getting into cabinet.
Ndio title ibadilike pia kidogo.
I tell you.
Something else that you might miss if you're in Kiambu, that should be on page 8. Say residents courting death in keeping looted toxic cyanide. So apparently a truck overturned in Kiambu, causing spillage of toxic substances, and a number of people rushed to the scene and wakaiba cyanide, wakadhani ni mafuta, wakaeka kwa nyumba. This is very poisonous if you're listening to us this morning. So a high-ranking health ministry official has disclosed that the government only managed to retrieve 1 jerrycan of sodium cyanide following an accident that caused a spill of the toxic chemical. Wow. In case you were there, makosa ufanyika. Enda urudishe useme, nilidhani ni mafuta, lakini this is what I've learned. This is sodium cyanide. This particular incident happened at Kambembe area of Rironi in Kiambu County. If you know someone there, mwambie asubuhi ile jerrycan ulichukua, rudisha tafadhali. That is the Daily Nation on the back page. Countdown to 2024 Paris Olympics. 4 days to go. Oh
yes, 4 days to the Olympics.
Oh yes.
Let's take a look at another daily this morning. That's the People Daily. It goes with a totally different headline. No cash for exams. They say 3.5 million learners risk missing tests after 5.02 billion shillings was slashed due to error designating national examiners among income-generating state agencies. How do exams actually become income-generating? So, hakuna pesa hapo. The other story, of course, enough is enough. President William Ruto's stance on the ongoing protests also features there. The story about the cyanide, sodium cyanide, is also highlighted at the top. Families could be storing highly toxic sodium cyanide in their houses and endangering lives, mistaking it for fuel after tanker accident.
Oh yes.
Once again, that's a warning. Please, kama ulibeba hiyo, get rid of it.
Oh yes.
At least this paper managed to squeeze that story from the US. Joe Biden drops out of the US presidential contest. What exactly does it mean to Kenyans now that President William Ruto was only 2 months ago there for a very much publicized state visit, and even Kenya was named NATO ally after that visit. Enough memoranda was signed by the president, but now going forward it means it is obvious that Biden will not be president after January next year.
Yeah, the whole Kenya-US alliance is really going to shift.
What exactly will that mean for this administration? That's the People Daily this morning.
On the front page of the Star, new demos, they said Raila coils angry Ruto talk staff. Gen Zs have called for a fresh round of countrywide demonstrations this week. Was on pages 4 and 5. They say the president sought to know the end game with the sustained demos. There's something interesting he said over the weekend, that nilita watu kwa express lakini walitoroka. And people are wondering, there are thousands of listeners there, even despite the fact that the express took about 5 times and more to even start.
Yes.
There's so many young people there listening. So who are these walitoroka?
I find it interesting that the president, this picture, the choice of picture on the front page of the Star, the president and one of his CS nominees. Okay, let me one of his returnee nominees. Davis Chirchir there. Why the Star picked this photo is very telling. Yes?
Because labda kuna zingine,
I'm sure there must have been so many other photos.
Without him.
Why did they pick this photo with the CS nominee?
Oh yes.
Wow. Anyway, that's the front page of the Star. Gen Z mnikome. Kauli yake rais. Rais aonya vijana wanaopanga kuendelea na maandamano kuwa atawachukulia hatua kali wakirudi barabarani. Ni shinikizo la rais akiambia Gen Z kuwa hatakubali kusukumwa nao tena ili akubali matakwa zaidi, adai kuna watu fulani wasiojulikana wanaowaekea vijana shinikizo ili wayumbishe serikali yake. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Jenzimu nikome. Raila Odinga tunampata pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili pia. Raila apiga abautani tena. This is like the third or fourth time Raila Odinga has made an abautan in the recent weeks. Ampa masharti makali Ruto kabla ya kushiriki mazungumzo na serikali ya Kenya Kwanza.
Speak of watermelons and oranges.
Wakati huo huo kule Uganda, Museveni aonya Gen Z wa Uganda, asema wamepanga kuandamana hapo kesho kupinga ufisadi. Lakini ameambia hata nyinyi mnikome Gen Z Uganda mnikome.
Lakini Museveni is fighting corruption. Mbona usipate more support?
The Gen Zs are just saying we are helping you.
We're helping you.
You're fighting corruption but not now to wasikizi sisi. Because the president in Uganda has been very insistent on fighting corruption inside the parliament. But it seems it's not working. So the Gen Zs are saying, hey,
let us help you. But ni kama ameona what is happening in Kenya and the kind of devastation in Zafanyika. I was like, I don't want that in my country.
All right. That's the front page of Taifa Leo. Let's now get to the cartoons this morning.
On page 11 is Daily Nation. Two gentlemen there, one from the government wearing a blue suit, another one from the opposition wearing a black suit. Pale chini ya meza ni kiti ingine ndogo sana ya mama mboga / boda boda.
Hajafika hapo.
Yes. Na hiyo kiti yake ni ndogo sana na hakuna representative hapo.
There's a handshake happening up there. Yenye hawezi fikia.
But pale chini, oh yes. Yeah, the Standard page 12, it's about what's happening in Rwanda. Caricature of President Paul Kagame. In his hands are full. On one hand, he has the opposition tightly clasped between his hand and his chest. And meanwhile, the right hand has the media. He's almost actually swallowing the media. Well, the Standard today focusing on what's happening in Rwanda. Yes, that's a cartoon this morning. Oh yes. On two other cartoons, tuanze na The Star. The Star went with a very different...
Where?
Hiyo ni ile unauliza hapa simeenda sana.
Hey, two frames there.
Yes, two frames there. One, you might realize that head on the left, they say ton.
That's Donald Trump and his famous, now famous ear.
Yeah.
It's torn.
Yes. Na kule kwingine Rubik's imekwa ndani ya
mechora tu kichwa tu kisogo tu
lakini you can decipher who this person is.
It's a tone deaf.
Yeah.
Wow. The Star. I love that cartoon today.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Angalia sasa the People Daily. People Daily, will you marry me? A gentleman there he's actually now a gentleman proposing with Wilmaro Ndogo ndani ni I think mkate.
Stanosi amekuja sana hapa.
The beautiful lady wearing a dress with the orange.
Raila Odinga in a dress. This is the first time I've seen such a caricature. Will you marry me?
Oh, goodness. That's a big question.
I tell you. I think those two cartoons are one from on the Star and the one on the People Daily. I love those two.
They make it for this morning.
Today, Standard and Daily Nation wako nje kiasi.
Oh yes, and these two cartoons will really form the basis of a conversation when it comes to state of the nation.
Exactly. What's happening with William Ruto's cabinet, his warning to the protesters, as well as Raila's numerous abautans. We're not really sure which direction he's facing currently, and the Standard puts it correctly, Raila this way, Raila that way. We'll be discussing this and a lot more with my panelists after the break. Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Cabinet Minister for Agriculture, will be in studio. So will be Honorable Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Samuel Pugisio, former Minister for ICT. Do stand by for that conversation. And of course, you can be part of it, as always, through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can always tag me. My X handle is at Fred Indimuli.
And Ringita_. This is a Health Monday. At around 8 a.m. we discuss men's mental health. Stick around for that conversation. You can always be part of it as well. At around 9 a.m. we talk about refractive errors in maneno ya macho, your eye care. How good is it this morning? Oh yes. Take it.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays 6:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. we dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Raila this way, Raila that way is a top headline on the front page of the Standard. I think my favorite headline today. It's well written. Raila this way, Raila that way. And we'll be discussing that and a lot more with my panelists this morning. Allow me to introduce Dr. Honorable Mumbingaru. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in studio.
Thank you.
Next to Dr. Ngaru, we have Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Cabinet Minister for Agriculture. It's also good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. Next to Bwana Kirwa, we have Samuel Pogisio, former Minister for ICT. Good morning, Karibu.
Good morning.
Yes. Very interesting headlines today about local news, and a lot of attention will be given to that. But before that, there's some piece of news that is exciting the entire globe, and that's what's happening in the U.S. U.S. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as a Democratic candidate in an extraordinary decision that upends an already dramatic race for the White House. Biden is already 81, and he said this through a statement that it was the greatest honor to serve, but his withdrawal was in the best interest of his party and country. I want us to look at it. I know there are two things. One, how does it affect Kenya, given the kind of relationship we've seen over recent months? Our president was just in the US a couple of months back for a very much publicized state visit for an African president, and he signed a lot of memoranda there with the president, including Kenya being named a non-NATO ally. And now that is confirmed that at least by January, Biden will no longer be president. It's now obvious. Does it mean that will change? Secondly, the prospect of a first woman president, black woman in the US, very interesting. Let's start with you, Dr. Ngaru.
Thank you, Fred. I start from the exciting news. It would be exciting news.
Yes.
To have the first American woman president. I hope it happens. There are such dynamics, and we are not voters, we are observers. It has its own implications, especially to the gender women of the world, that at long last it's happening. That said and done, I think President Biden has done a noble thing, and kind of will reaffirm the democracy of America, that he's not scared of leaving. He has announced it. He has announced his preferred candidate. It may be, it may not be. And that for me is good example of a democracy. The relationship between our country and what has happened in the US I'm calling it a double exit.
Why a double exit?
Yeah. The way I see it is that his friend should take a good lesson because we saw it coming for Joe Biden. And for him to get to that stage and say, I can't sustain it, and decide to exit gracefully is a noble thing. That's why I'm saying it should be a double exit. About the memorandums that have been signed, they were not very exciting. And therefore, I think Kenya will benefit from this exit in a big way. We talk about the things that we read, but there is also some other worldwide rebooting of the nations that are happening.
Oh, yes.
And that reboot of the American systems and our systems is going to work for a new world order. And therefore I'm celebrating the exit, praying for the double exit.
Within our borders?
Within our borders.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Waziri Kirwa, we can already see signs of even the Kenyan administration now distancing itself from anything American. You see the accusations against the Ford Foundation, which is a key charitable organization in the US. Does it mean that going forward, that's a kind of relationship that Kenya's current administration will have, now that it's very obvious that Biden will not be president come January?
Yeah, American politics hinges mainly on the party in power. And if the Democrat is going to win that particular election, then not much will change between our relationship and that of the US. But should the opposite happen, then that is going to be something very challenging. We'll have to readjust our operations with them. But as always been the case, here in Kenya, at times we seem to be fond of the Democrats, but at times there is better, for those of us in the opposition, better handling of the government of the day by the Republicans, in the sense that they do not give a lot of leeway and a lot of space for those in power to deal with those in the opposition. The second issue, I want to applaud Joe Biden for realizing his own internal limits and knowing that there is time for everything, time to run and time to quit. It's a very important lesson for us in Africa, especially for democracy like ours, which is still fragile, is still looking for steps to step on. And for us to realize that really an individual is as good as what it does. And once that diminishes, you need to give way, regardless of the feeling that you have as an individual. And you've seen it is going to be seamless in the sense that looking at this statement, looking at the statement of Barack Obama, the former president, and looking at the statement of President Clinton and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, all those statements tell you something, that this is something that has been thought through, and it is in the best interest for the Democratic Party in America, for Joe Biden to be given the leeway also to rest, having done a good job for the last 4 years. Otherwise, we wait for the best contest in America. because I think now it is not going just to be the issue of gender alone. There is more to it. It is a break away from a bit of erratic politics, because the alternative to Biden would not have been better in terms of respecting democratic principles. He behaves like he was born in Africa and he went to America and changed his color. Because, you know, there's no difference between him and some people, whether in Central Africa or West Africa, who from time to time they decide to take over power and fail to define what power they took and what purpose it was that they took over the reins of power. So let's wait and see.
All right. Definitely causing some excitement across the globe. A lot has changed globally. We've seen the resignation of the French president. We saw a new prime minister in the UK. Even in Africa, in South Africa, there seems to be a general shift in politics and power. And now we see this, the exit of a president in the US after one term, doing so voluntarily. How do you see this tying with our local politics, Bwana Pogisio?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, also appreciate the fact that we function in a space that is now brand new. It's a new space because dynamics have changed. Social media, internet, those are the things that have come into play now. So parties, political parties, candidates must also become tech savvy or rely more on technology now than just our usual barazas and things like that. We see now in this country that the biggest barazas are held online, and the biggest decisions are made along those lines. And so it's going to also affect us. Joe Biden was trying to hang on to his candidature for as long as he could. But the pressure started coming in from the party. Some of the guys who, you know, the old guys in the party were trying to help him stay on. But the pressure came from the rest of the party and said, no way, we're going to be literally slaughtered by this guy and literally overrun. And of course, the views were coming that we're not doing very well. And then, I mean, age is not a problem, but I think it was also showing some serious weaknesses and lapses. And so things were not going well for the for the Democrats. It was about time to change. And it's the same thing in this country. You know, here we can stay and hang on for as long as you want. But if you look at the decisions that we make here, we go down with the whole party and everybody just for the sake of one person sometimes. You want to collapse the whole country just because of your own interests. And that is where we need to learn that in the best interest of the party, which is how do we best win, but how do you also best remain relevant and acceptable to the people? And so we are now in that crossroads as a country. We are in the crossroads as a country. This week is probably going to be one of the toughest weeks for us because our decisions are not well advised to decide what to do, how you communicate with the space that exists, which is not, sometimes you may look like it is faceless, but it's actually a real force. And not only a real force, but they're actually real people. And the decisions are made that affect you as a leader. So my fear is that if we don't adjust quickly and realize these times are different, we might continue in the same path that the Democrats were trying to continue until they realize things must change. And I think even in this country, we must reach a place where we say, well, which way for the country and what's best for the country. My fear is we continue to organize ourselves in the same old manner as we know it, and then we fail to understand that there are new dynamics in politics today that we must listen to.
And you say, which way, Kenya? I think that the fact that it is decision time. There appears to be a lot of indecision if we may come back home now to look at our politics. And the front page of the Standard captures this very well. Raila this way, Raila that way. They're talking about this, about your boss, Dr. Ngaru. And they've even used the word watermelon on the front page of the Standard today in reference to Raila Odinga. This has never happened before.
Yeah.
We know who has been linked to this fruit for a long time. Now this is shifting. From an astute defender of democracy and human rights, today opposition leaders' words cannot be taken to the bank, since he's bound to change his mind again and again. On protests, he seemed to be blowing hot and cold. Do you agree with this assessment of your boss and party leader? Do you think that this is an accurate representation of what he has been doing for the past few weeks?
I wouldn't say it's accurate, but it looks like it has some facts. And I want to start from, you know, what we call political parties here. You know, we are talking about the Democrats in the US. We have strong political parties even in South Africa, in the UK, in France. There is nothing to compare with the political parties that we have. And remember, I'm a very strong political party person. But we have not matured to have a political party that can tell a party leader, like what happens in those countries where the political parties are strong, they are grounded on ideology and even discipline of the political party. Here we have some kind of mongrels, private, you know, and you drive the people from that point of view. So this is why, correctively so, that the media has also picked my party leader and now dealing with him as an individual. I hope you had noticed that.
He's on all the front pages of the
Yes. They have not asked about the position of the party, because in the party itself, we are having issues. The Gen Zs are in all political parties, and they have had their sentiments heard. So even in our political party, they're talking the language that the country is talking. And therefore, my party leader is finding it a bit difficult to convince the Gen Zs in the political party of his way of relating to the current government. And then, of course, there is a lot of, you know, gesturing, just in case these opportunities of getting into the cabinet.
Are you saying that probably other forces, especially within the party, are holding the former Prime Minister hostage?
Yes.
That he's not the one speaking. All this confusion is not Raila Odinga. It is the other voices around him.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that the Gen Zs in the country are also in our party. And what they stand for, especially governance issues, they are bringing those issues on board in our political party. And so when names are floated and they are looking at the names, and probably they may not tell the party leader to his face that, you know, not that one. So we have that environment in the political party. And being a party leader, probably he has also to listen to other voices. Sometimes it takes a brave person to say, this is it. But the confusion and jostling is also caused by the names that are being floated in the media.
The possible cabinet nominees.
Yeah. They are not any different, from
the other first 11.
You know, so that makes the party also a big, you know, that confusion looks like it's affecting my party leader. The good thing about my party leader is eventually he will get out of it. He cannot be a watermelon. In his way of, no, it will not fit him. Because before he comes out with a clear picture, he will have listened to all the voices.
If you look at the top strip of the Daily Nation, front page, they say that it has now emerged that some leaders are concerned about Mr. Odinga's delay in presenting his list to Dr. Ruto, with some party stalwarts said to be ready to accept ministerial offers even without Raila's blessings. Has it gotten there?
Then you move in as an individual without considering the party position. Just like I said, our parties are not as strong as we have in America, in UK. But that shows you the other aspect of just bad manners in political parties. Not only my party, I'm sure it would happen in other political parties. And the power of greed in individuals is making us kind of lose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we give an opportunity to Bwana Kirwa, I think it's time we take a short break. You're watching Morning Cafe. We are discussing this headline on the front page of the Standard, Raila this way, Raila that way. We'll be back shortly.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Welcome back. This is a Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Freddie Ndimuli. Raila this way, Raila that way is what we're discussing right now. It is not me saying it, is the front page of the Standard. That's a big headline today. Yes. Bwana Kirwa, Raila, Odinga, watermelon, that is a strange combination. We've never heard of this before. But in even just looking at social media, this assessment, this is what we're seeing on the front page, is general sentiment. This is what many people are feeling right now. Do you agree with this headline this morning?
Well, without knowing the background, one is tempted to agree. But having listened to Dr. Ngaru, you realize that our good friend Raila Odinga is in a very complicated situation, in the sense that political parties have either been associated with individuals, and therefore any political arrangement is crafted around an individual, and any political coalition is merely coalition of tribes or communities to make it sound better. But it is not coalition of ideas, philosophy, or ideology. It is coalition of communities, one set against the other. The second issue, Fred, is that we've not come to accept multipartyism fully, because from the beginning of time, 1964, when KADU dissolved itself and crossed over the floor to Kano, the landscape has been as checkered as it can ever be. The only time that there was a semblance of respect for the two sides of the divide was after 2013 elections, where URP, TNA remained on the government side and the opposition remained on the opposition benches throughout the 5 years. But all the other 13 elections has either been onslaught on the opposition by the ruling coalition, or those in the opposition trying to come to government through the back door by spending a lot of time peeping through the window. I'm spending a bit of this time because we need to exonerate individuals, because today is Raila and Ruto. Tomorrow it will be another pair of individuals, one in the opposition and one in the government.
Behaving the same way.
Behaving the same way. So just to give a bit of philosophical thinking, even the GNC occupying that space which rightfully belongs to the opposition is a product of the behavior of the government of the day, because immediately after winning the 2022 election, the president became on a fishing spree, starting with the UDM, Jubilee, and all manner of parties to change the dynamics that were Azimio had more members of parliament than Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, muscling the opposition gave way to alternative voice, because, as they say, nature does not like a vacuum. And therefore, this vacuum, out of whittling down the opposition, has been occupied by GNC, rightly so. So I think Raila, being a political animal that has the capacity to morph into another form from the other, has read the signs of time. I remember in the list that was circulating the whole of last week, even my name was there. And in the social media, many people are saying I can be a good minister. But when they were doing now assessment, because I was asking another station whether I would take it, I said, let us cross the bridge when we get there. We may be talking of a bridge while there's no river. So, but the young men in the internet, they were sending me information that the moment you join the other side, you will have demystified yourself just like any other politician. So you can see GNC may actually bring democracy to Kenya by making sure that they hold us in our own pigeonholes until we accept that we either belong to the opposition or we belong to the government of the day. So I don't want us to be unkind to Raila, because also there are many job seekers, both in the opposition and in the government. And I could see the thinking of Orengo and the thinking of Mbandi are two different thinking that you wonder whether they belong to the same house called the ODM. Because one is totally convinced that the choice the Prime Minister has taken is the right choice, while Orengo is smelling a lot of mischief by that kind of coalition. without really overstaying my invitation, I would want to say, let us treat all these things with a lot of caution.
Okay.
And let the government of the day also spend more time reflecting on the issues raised by these young Kenyans instead of looking at other external enemies, because the GNC's issues are not political. They are totally apolitical. They are issues affecting each and every Kenyan. But we are trying to look for a political solution to a problem that is of governance. And that, to me, is just not reading the question properly.
Okay.
One of the issues I was told when I was in high school is that read the question and read it again before you answer. Because at times you can go in the middle of the question, you realize you are answering the wrong question. And you fail not because you are stupid, but because you've misread the question.
Okay. And Bwana Pogisho, you're listening to Bwana Kirwa, he lays a lot of blame on the government side. But the Gen Z protests, which he says the Gen Z, the space being occupied by the Gen Z ideally should have been occupied by the opposition, then it means that this, what we are seeing now, is more or less an indictment on the opposition and their conduct so far. Hence the headlines we're seeing here, that even Raila Odinga's position as an astute defender of democracy is being questioned now.
Fred, the Gen Z say this of us, our generations. They say, you don't get it. And absolutely, we don't seem to get it. The president doesn't get it. The leader of opposition doesn't get it. We don't seem to get what really they're after. What are they looking for? They don't want to become president now. They don't want to be in that cabinet. But they like for us to do things and do them differently. However, all this jostling for ministerial positions is just an indication that we want to go back to the days of the Pentagon, the days we organize ourselves, the same old way. We want to bring back our friends. Well, even the ones who are removed were just friends. So if you bring others, you're simply putting yourselves in the same position of your friends. So the acid test is, are you getting it? Are you really understanding what we are asking for? And as though the Prime Minister is not in enough trouble, the President's choice of his side is also irked the members of the Gen Z group, and the rest of the people, even the church. I heard on Sunday the churches were preaching against it. The churches are saying, why you bring back people to the same docket? So creating another problem again that President William Ruto has to deal with. It's another crisis on his side, but that is probably the reason why, in my view, that Raila needed a break also to look at his side. Because if his side is strong, maybe with a bit of approval, it could actually help in the formation of government. But if his side is the same as the other side, if the side is still about friends and comrades and so on, it won't change anything. I mean, because we are just simply saying we are organizing ourselves as we know it. But the world has changed. It's a different world altogether. And the other thing which we worry about is then how does the leader of opposition distance himself from being lobbed together with the government, or with the government of the day, which is what the Gen Zs have a problem with. So is this to say there's no more opposition in the government, in the country? And if there's no opposition in the country because we've come together, can the Gen Zs then occupy that space? Which they will. And if they do occupy that space, we are meeting at a different level with them, because they organize themselves by the thousands every day. And they discuss things among themselves. And they're willing to come out and say, this is what we want you to do. So why don't you also give them a chance and say, okay, instead of being very hard on this Gen Zs, why don't you really get it? What is it that they are up to? And so the dilemma is this, and you see, of course, Raila is trying to become the leader that has been respected for so long. But he has a very difficult house to manage. he has the Azimio house to manage, and then he has the ODM house to manage. And you can see this revolt on both levels. And so you can't then go ahead and do the usual thing. He has to consult, and I'm sure that's why the delay is. Because he has to consult at both levels. The level of Kalonzo says no, Eugene Wamalwa said no, Kioni says no, Martha Karua says no. And those are his people. That's his Pentagon of sorts. And then he has to come now and deal with the house where my friend here is there and others who now must also deal with the situation in the house. Then the big question is, who is going to be picked for the 7 or so slots? I don't know how many there are. And that is now where there's going to be disarray. So I mean, even he has a big problem on his mind.
But, and you put it correctly that it appears that no one is listening to the Gen Zs. We are not getting it right. Now the discussion is about cabinet positions, and there's a lot of excitement. I was listening to the ODM party chairman, John Bandy, talking at the top of his voice, talking about how he was meant to be in cabinet, if at all Uhuru had helped Raila win. And you can clearly see he's angling for a position in cabinet at this time. And the Gen Zs are talking about something totally different. There has been, and I was, one of the commentators over the weekend mentioned the fact that this revolution, if we may call it that, is at risk of being stolen by the political class. And the politicians have seen a loophole, the fact that these people have remained leaderless. The political class is excited and wants to ride on that wave. Do you see a risk in that?
I think the Gen Zs are ahead of us, far ahead of us. And not defending my party leader, he has time and time again put in very young members of our party in the cabinet, even before the Gen Z's revolution. I remember during his time in cabinet, we had somebody like Ochila Yako. He was in his 30s.
Yes.
And others. Lina Jebi Kilimo is another one. She was young. And the proposal came from my party leader. And I can remember a few others. In the next government after that, he had Jeff Akingi, also a young person. Babu Namwamba. So he believes in getting them in and mentoring them and bringing them out to the public as he surrounds them with the others who can make them mature in the political field. And this is my worry from where I sit, because I can pick quite a number of young people who've been on what we call upward mobility from our political party. But once people get into parliament, I don't know what happens. They lose the voice that took them there and get entrenched to the me, I, and myself. This is why you will get somebody says, I've supported Raila for many years, I was meant to be, I should be the one of those who are complaining loudly, yeah? That I come from a region where his party is not strong and I have not moved, but I don't come out to demand rewards for loyalty. So there's something about our political parties, all of them, that really needs to be addressed. You know, Mheshimiwa just said it, that it is not respected by anybody. Immediately the president is announced the winner. He knows he doesn't have a majority and he gets into a fishing expedition. Even in his expedition, he will look at a person who can easily be compromised. Yes, that's what happens. They will not look for what they call hardcores, the political, that one you can't buy. That's the language that is used in political parties. So they look for soft targets of people who can be swayed to puff up the numbers that he requires. Therefore, even as we work on that, we must remember that in the Gen Z movement, that seed could be taking root. Yes, it could be. And there are others who are coming up like a political voice in the Gen Z movement, even in their X space. You have, okay, I'll call it an infiltration of faces with names that are trying to fit in the agenda, but it is for selfish reasons.
Okay.
So long as the Gen Zs, I have this policy in politics that say, use the resources of your enemy to grow your own, because it also happens. That could save them. But if you create that space for them with a hidden agenda, their big idea is going to be aborted, because it's kind of a dry cleaning. They will be dry cleaning.
The same, yes.
The same faces for them to occupy or regain their space.
Okay.
And it's going to be very tricky for them. But I can see caution in them. And when I say that, I'm saying it from my political party, that the voices that talked to my party leader, Raila Odinga, about joining and the names and many other things.
That led to the turnaround?
That led to the you are calling it turnaround, but a step back. It's not a turnaround, it's a step back to reflect and listen to those voices again is a good thing.
Okay, Bonakirwa, do you agree or do you see like this movement that the Gen Zs have had and has been very successful in pushing or backing the president into a corner? People now have seen an opportunity. Do you think that this revolution could be stolen away from the Gen Zs, especially by the political class?
What worries me more, Fred, is the fact that if we ignore such a strong constituency, and for the sake of those who may just be looking at it simplistically, that this Gen Z is a reflection of the thinking of our society. It is not a product of just young people. These young people, they have their parents and they have their grandparents. And some of their parents and grandparents are almost agreeing with them and saying, it is good you have expressed the frustrations we have felt for a long time. And it is also indictment on the political class that we, the members of political class, whether we are in the opposition or in the government, we've been painted by the same brush. And for me, I would have wished that those in the opposition and those in government look at the issues they are raising instead of making a condemnation of them and talking of external funders, promoters, and sponsors, which people don't exist because the government has the capacity to arrest anybody if there is somebody who is finding some kind of chaos or confusion. And just for the information of the public, you realize that the other day, after the president had condemned Ford Foundation, only to realize that the organization led by the First Lady has benefited from Ford Foundation for reasons stipulated there that it was meant to promote table banking for women and encourage women to start doing savings for their development, which therefore defeats the purpose of trying to externalize the problem that we have. The problem we have is selling of jobs. I have repeatedly said here and elsewhere that the moment you are selling jobs in Ziwa, in Cherangani, in Kandara, and making it the exclusive club of politicians or people who are given up to 40 letters, and each letter they are selling at 400,000 shillings. And the children will know that I would have gotten that position if so-and-so's child was not bought that job. I remember when we had a family meeting after I lost one of my many brothers, one askari within my family being told, keep quiet. We sold 1 acre to buy you the job. He's a policeman. So it is as embarrassing as that even children know that to get a job you must buy. Whether it is KWS, whether it's the military, whether it is... Now, what kind of soldier are you creating out of that? So the GNCs are talking about those disparities, those inequities, that unfairness, that somebody's child who is not supposed even to be a soldier or a policeman, it could be my height. And you see I'm below the height that somebody needs to go to the police. Some have crooked legs, and during the parade they are hidden in the backyard. And then they come back to the traffic. Then you realize this is not a policeman, supposed to be 5'8". So these are some of the things that these young people are telling us, that if I qualify for a job, I don't have to come from your tribe. I just need to be interviewed and to be given fairness. Fred, for purposes of illustration, if you are to look at the profile of any organization, whether it is Kenya Power, whether it is Kenya Pipeline, you will almost know who was the MD at this particular time by the number of people who were employed at that particular time. It tells you we have actually decided that we are not a nation. We are just a collection of tribes who tolerate each other because we are forced by the British to be called Kenya. These are issues we should be addressing, because if we don't address now, even if Raila became president tomorrow or somebody else, the same issues will still be deviling him and the entire society. So my worry, Fred, is the politicians reading the signs of the time? Or are we allowing these children to take us out of office by eviction? Because I've been seeing people say Raila is this way, that way. But even the president, he makes a good statement while in Nairobi, then he goes to Bomet, is incited by the local dynamics, and he says something which is not presidential. It worries me. The other day he was in Nakuru, the section that is predominantly Kalenjin, he said also something that is unpresidential. And therefore we are fomenting tribal tension. If you are to read, because I'm in many WhatsApps, and I keep quiet, we are getting more tribal as a country, and it worries me.
And let's listen to what the president had to say now that we're discussing whether or not the political class is really listening to the Gen Zs or the younger generation. Let's listen in to what the president had to say yesterday.
Naendelea kusema wao ni faceless, wao ni formless, sijui wako nini. Mimi nimewaambia sasa, my friends, you know, I have given a chance to everybody to say whatever they want. You know, it cannot continue like this. The country is much more important than any group of people. Going forward, we will protect the nation. We will protect life. We will protect property. We will stop the looters. We will stop the killers. We will stop mayhem. We will stop anarchy, because Kenya is a democracy and we want a peaceful, stable nation. Sema tusipitisha finance bill. Mimi nimewacha finance bill. Nikawaita wakanasema hawataki kuja kuzungumza na mimi. Wakaniambia niende huko kwa X. Mimi nikaenda kwa X. Wakatoroka huko, hawakukweko. Wakaniambia tuitishe mazungumzo. Nimeitisha mazungumzo, wamekataa.
Our sons and daughters, please, we plead with you as your parents that we have heard you and you have made your point. You don't need to rub it in. is enough.
Enough is enough. Si imetosha hii maneno.
It's about the tone, Bwana Pugisio. We've seen the president in recent weeks. The very first statement he made on 25th of June after Parliament was breached, and he came out guns blazing at night. The following day, he had changed his tone and made several concessions, and he looked like he was listening. But listening to him yesterday, is he really listening to the younger generation?
Well, Fred, at the risk of being repetitive, we just don't get it. It is difficult to understand the dynamics that caused the president to act the way he is. And if you were the president of Kenya today, you'd probably be confused like that. You would probably have issues like that. You know, you don't know exactly whether this is the way that will please the people or this is the way that will make them more angry. And I'm sure that after that Bomet trip, the president must have again sat down and said, what goodness, what just happened? Because the statements from Nakuru were, I know you, Ford Foundation, right? And surely if there are enough enemies in this country, why would you focus on one and just name one? Why don't you just give us a rundown of all the enemies that are there, the ones that are sponsoring these people? But then secondly, when you go to a place of your comfort, which is usually the church or the people in your comfort zone, and you also want to give the impression to the comfort zone that you're strong, you're strong, you're not shaken. But you can't live there. You have to come back to reality. You have to come back to Nairobi, to the city, where the rest of the dynamics are happening. And so, yeah, it is very difficult. I think, like I've said at some point, I think that the president is alone. The president needs to surround himself with people who can tell him ukweli wa mambo. Let him understand the truth of the matter, the situation as it is. And let him not think that these people are anarchists, these people are thugs, these people. Those are totally different things. When you call them that way, they dig in, okay? Because that's not what they are. And how come we can't work on understanding them? Why can't we work? Why can't we put all our effort in actually getting what is it that they need? And they have said it very clearly. You've come out and said, I'm going to do a lean cabinet, I'm going to consult widely, I'm going to make sure I do this and that. And they kept quiet after that because they wanted to see what you would do. Then you come out with your list. And then there is a proposal now that a counter list is coming to fill the rest. And that list is still made up of the people that the agencies have issues with. And so you blame yourself because you have not reached a point of saying, okay, let me now listen. And listening is an active thing. Listening is not just sitting there. Listening.
You seem to have listened and fired the entire cabinet. Then a week later, you return a third of them.
That's what I'm saying. Listening and doing. Listening is actually doing. It's you know, you listen actively, which means you do as what you have heard and understood. And I really hope that the volunteer advisors can reach the president with the right understanding of what these people are saying. You know, understanding. You know, I've said before here in short, communication is creating understanding. You must reach the same meaning of this thing. So it's the created meaning of what they are saying that we don't get. They speak in a language that's different maybe from us, but we have to reach the same conscience and the same understanding of what it is. I think this is what they're saying. You need to be accountable. And we need for you to bring people here who can actually be accountable. And you need to be held accountable by the citizenry. They're saying to us parents, you keep quiet because you guys have failed us. Your generation has failed us. But please, President, listen to us. These people have no need at all. This is not a revolution in the sense of throwing you out of power. It's a revolution in the sense that they want you to stay accountable. And so when they say, for example, okay, you told us you have dismissed your people. So they're back in the same dockets. I mean, this is what they're saying. Why don't you begin to listen to us? We're telling you, please, give us people who can be held accountable. Okay. And that's the challenge. But now politicians, as you know, we are stuck like a broken record. We have a situation where, you know, this guy, I cannot remove him. Okay, I cannot do away with him. That lady, I cannot get away with her because you know, and then you're bringing reasons of because which don't make sense to them. They don't make sense to them. What is it that you want in this ministry that you must bring Pogisha back to that ministry? You must bring Kibo back to that ministry. What is your interest in this ministry? And we're saying to you, please, look also at the CVs of these people. We also know where they have been. We are Kenyans. This is what they have been, and they're showing you exactly why I think it's not advised to appoint such people. If, for example, today my name appeared in this list as Samuel Pogisha, and the Gen Z say, for example, that this is the dossier we have on him, why would I push myself to be in that position? Because we want people who can be held accountable. If I cannot be held accountable, I shouldn't be there. Okay.
But it would appear even the president himself is facing the same problem that your party leader is facing. That there are just people around them that they cannot get rid of. And they are the ones who make the bigger decisions, including you cannot fire me. That I'll be back in that cabinet whether you like it or not.
Fred, I've said it here and I'm going to repeat it again. The president is held hostage by some forces. By some forces or individuals, whatever you call them, he is held hostage.
Are we beginning to see who are holding the president hostage?
I don't know who they are. Okay, from where I sit, I can identify a few and ask myself, what is this relationship between the president and so and so? I can understand it. But this is what is rubbing the Gen Zs. And when we talk about Gen Zs, they are carrying their parents.
Yeah.
They are carrying their parents. They are carrying Kenyans. The only difference is that the parents may not be as loud in their demands. And therefore, we need... I'm trying to be nice. He's adding salt into an injury. He comes out well, and he says, I've done what you asked me to do. I dismissed the cabinet. And here I am presenting a new, in quotes, new cabinet. The names that appear there, people have been complaining about extrajudicial killings. You are returning Professor Kidiki to the same docket. I mean, they're looking at you as a president, and the voice of Ruto must go becomes very amplified. Now, the Gen Zs are not like us. You present the names, and in education, they tell us that whoever was supposed to be deputy governor, running mate of the minister who's just exited, is the one who comes to repress him. And therefore, somebody said, this one is a company with shareholding. It's coming out. It's coming out so clearly. And like
that some positions in cabinet belong to certain communities.
Yeah, not just communities, individuals. Look at the Gen Zs screaming. I've heard it about inclusivity. Yet in the same list, out of 11, 6 come from my region. I am saying it because it's out there in the public. So who was speaking? The Gen Zs were saying you cannot have a cabinet that belongs to 2 regions. So, like, we go back to somebody this way, this way. You also step back and ask if they are talking, what is this? What is this? This adding salt into the injury is the one that is making the Gen Zs look like they are wild.
Okay.
They are not wild. And then this attitude of speaking to them, you are our children, you have talked and we have listened. I think it is not a good idea because this appeal of talking to my children will not apply in the public space. Even my own children, they are adults in their own right. They are in their 40s. So how do I talk to them like I talked to them when they were 18? So we are missing it.
Okay.
And we are not missing it because we don't understand what they are talking about. I will say it without any fear of contradiction. We are hearing them. But we are stuck in our old ways. We are stuck. And it is deliberate.
Okay.
I can say it without any fear of contradiction. It is deliberate because we do not want to take this bold step that they are asking us. You know, please, don't do it this way. And people who seem to be getting it 2 steps forward and 1 step backward are the churches. They have listened better than the politicians. Because you look at what's happening in churches, even in the presence of the big people, the deputy president, the president himself, they are changing their language, their sermons to fit a given kind of script. They are still passing the message. So we are making our children more angry by appealing to them like, you know, watoto wetu, now we have heard you. You know, I called you and you didn't come, you know.
That tone of voice is...
That tone,
yes.
And the implication of the real problems that they have presented, there's a disconnect, and we need to change.
Wanakirwa, just listening to the president, and he appears to have gone back to the tone he used on the 25th when he made that, he addressed the nation at about 9 p.m. Immediately after the precincts of parliament were breached. Do you think that is, because there are ways of appearing powerful and presidential without really verbalizing the kind of anger we are seeing? When he talks more or less like a third party to the same people he's supposed to be enticing or talking to or working with, that could have some negative effects. Do you think it will work?
It is good to give what researchers call ontology. And ontology is a very strong position that makes you a captured individual, in the sense that the president is a very good campaigner. And in campaigning, you have to combine the truth and propaganda for your message to be delivered to the exact destination and to have the necessary impact at that destination, that is destroying your opponent. But as to whether he is a good manager in terms of managing even the public goodwill, Because public goodwill, once you generate, you need to consolidate so that lack of trust does not arise. And with the risk of unraveling the feathers of the Honorable Samuel Pogisio, I would want to advise the President that let the opposition be, and let us learn to build a strong opposition. Because we've realized we in the political class are job seekers. So that instead of creating jobs in government, and you expect us to cross to government, create those jobs in the opposition, where the leader of official opposition is given an office that may be slightly below that of the president, but an office that gives him the leverage to discuss with the president at almost the same table issues that are at their level. Make me minister, shadow minister for foreign affairs, so that when I meet the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, I discuss with him at my level and I give him credible information. I have this feeling that, and I liked former Minister Franklin Bett. When he was the chairman of Agriculture Committee, he would seek to inform me that we are touring all these parastatals within your ministry, and upon coming back, he would seek an appointment with me in the office. He tells me this is the highlight of issues, prepare to meet the committee. And as I meet the committee, you get more information that your officers themselves will not give you, because they'll be arising from the committee, and you take that information and you now use it internally to manage your department or your ministry. This is something that we must run away from, trying to weaken the opposition with the hope that as you weaken the opposition, you will run over them and win the next election easily. In fact, if the president was to do two things, create a convention after he forms his government, and I would request that we give him time to form his cabinet, and after formation of the cabinet, we now have national convention where delegates are carefully selected, both from the opposition and from the government. Then we go through the issues that the GNC have generated, and we ask ourselves, what do we do to address these issues? Because they are national. If it is of anti-corruption, it is something that cuts across. If it is issues of governance, if it is issues of behavior of MPs, ministers, or individuals in exalted offices, that bad manners they exude is something that we must banish from the face of the land, whether you are in the opposition or you are in government. And finally then, after that convention, we distill the issues and we take care of them in the opposition and in the government. That is the only way we can make progress, by ensuring that we take the country together forward. Otherwise, it is going to be blame game, and we are not going to create a way forward.
Okay. And as we come to the end of the show today, I want us to talk a bit about Parliament. They've been on recess since the 26th, just a day after the precincts of Parliament were breached. They're coming back from recess tomorrow, this week, to a full entry. Even the rejection of the finance bill is yet to be processed through Parliament. There's so many things, including now the vetting of the cabinet nominees that will come out. Now, if looking at how the politics of the country have been going, this expected dalliance between the opposition and government, it would mean that the numbers in Parliament would change completely once ODM starts working with Kenya Kwanza or UDA. We've already been complaining about how this Parliament and the majority numbers have been misused inside Parliament. Going forward, that breach of the precincts of Parliament was an indication of a lack of public confidence in that House. It is an indictment in the Houses of Parliament. Now, this could be worse, Bwana Pogisio, if at all ODM, if at all we get there, ODM working with Kenya Kwanza. What do you see going forward, and as far as the conduct of this National Assembly is concerned?
Well, Fred, thank you, and thank you for the rider that if it gets there, because we actually don't know what's going to happen between now and that time. But definitely, tyranny of numbers has always been a problem in our parliament. You remember the years when we had those tentative numbers that anything goes. And that's probably what this government is looking for, is to increase their numbers in parliament, make it easy for everything to pass, including the cabinet, whichever way it is formed. And this is what I keep saying about when you have lost trust, when the trust is no longer there, when people can't trust you or you've lost trust, to rebuild that trust, you need at least to do a few things that are, for example, clarity is very important. It's about time that the president asks the question, what is it really that these people are saying? Okay? Let's make it clear. Invite a few people and see their interpretation of it, or directly deal with these young people and say, okay, let's list the things that I must do, which they've already done, but now you want to do it again. What is it that really we must do? Clarity. But the other one is compassion. Really, for you to regain trust, you need to be compassionate. You don't want to use that voice again that drives a wedge between you and those guys. You need to be able to feel that you understand, they understand you, and you understand them. Be compassionate. Compassion is not saying be weak. It's just that you also begin to understand their side of the story. But there is something more important, which is called character. Who are you to these people? Who are you? Is that really you, or this is you? Is that what we are saying today? Raila this way, Raila that way. The character that they know of Raila, where is it? What is the true character of the president? What is the true character of the opposition? But more importantly, you also need to know, to show that you actually know where you're going with this country. And that you, with the help of whoever else you're recruiting, competency is very important. And if they judge you to be incompetent, you cannot win their trust. I'm just bringing out those issues because I think we are struggling with a situation that we must now become practical about. What is it exactly? They have told you they don't want this cabinet. You remove them, then you bring them back. Come back to the place where what is it that is missing in this one now? Correct it, please.
Okay.
Move to something else until you reach a place of agreement. Anyway, that for me is where we are going. And I want to speak to exactly what Minister Kir was saying. Let the opposition be. We cannot reduce the country into a one-party system. We cannot bring the country back to the days when we used to enjoy, buying out the opposition and making sure that, you are comfortable. Mm-hmm. It is a different kind of thing. When you do that, you actually open the opposition spaces to the X spaces and to the young people.
Okay.
And you will never finish what you are doing.
Yeah, that is a direction. That is a direction we are seeing the political class taking. This discussion around the prospects of a government of national unity and the sharing of cabinet positions. That in itself would mean a shift in how the opposition, especially ODM, which is the second biggest party in parliament, will be conducting its affairs. If at all they will be part of government, what happens? And how do you see this parliament working towards, in as far as this crisis is concerned?
Government of national unity has been formed before. The unfortunate bit about it is that it is formed to calm the nerves of a country at edge. And we have not learned, and this is what the Gen Zs are telling us, we have not learned to take care of the issues that take the country at edge. We have always refused to sort those issues out. And they've been there. They've been, every time we have formed a government of national unity under different names, coalition, Musumukate, I don't know what else, handshake, and including the one that Waziri talked about in 1963 when Kadu got into Kanu and that kind of thing. We have refused as a country, as politicians, to take care of those things that bring the country to that edge. So, and the Gen Zs are saying it. You parents, you've done your best. Let us complete it for you. And what Waziri said, okay, allow the formation of a cabinet, then we can have a convention, and then we lay out how we want to get out of this. If the media was not biased, that is exactly what my party leader said to his...
Saying the media is biased?
No, they said this and that. But he called his friend and said, let us have the issues that the new cabinet will address. You know, so that when we appoint them, we have a TOR for them. And those are things that are happening behind the scenes. Now, if you don't give that to your partner, they think some cards are over the table and others are behind the table, and therefore it's wait and see. I'm waiting. But from where I sit, once bitten, twice shy. And this is why the Gen Zs are getting angrier, more angry by the day. Because they are looking at us as unserious people. And that does not help. And therefore, in our own thinking of those in power is that they will get tired. And it's going to fizzle out. And that's a miscalculation.
Okay. But
because it's going to be, it's not going to fizzle out. You are energizing their anger by the day. You are energizing their anger by the content that you are showing them, by the lists you produce, even if it's from my own political party. You are making them all more angry, even if it's by the tone and the appeal. It's contemptuous.
And one of those accused of having a tone that is rather condescending, members of the parliament, especially parliamentary leadership. And I don't know why I'm not getting the answer about the conduct of the National Assembly, because this was the first institution that this protesters targeted, meaning that was the first problem they felt existed. Now the House is back tomorrow. Do you feel, Bonakirwa, that there should be some changes probably in how the House conducts itself, probably in the parliamentary leadership? Would that help pacify the masses a bit? We may have focused too much on the executive, but the National Assembly is part of the problem as well.
Yeah, you know, we focus on the executive because the executive has become the dominant factor in the three arms of government. Because as I said from the beginning, Parliament was emasculated, both in terms of their capacity being demeaned and also the capacity of the opposition being reduced to the extent now the majority is the party that won the presidency. But I do want to agree with you that indeed it is important that in any position of leadership, you improve your internal communication, that is among your colleagues, so that whatever voice gets to the public is a voice that has been processed and is able to do proper delivery of the message that you have. That's what Mheshimiwa Bogisho was saying earlier, that there must be some communication that is believable and can be justified, such that what you say today will be augmented by what you say tomorrow. And that voice must also carry the right tone so that people feel respected. The trust deficit that has arisen in our country is because of the tone of the leaders, their attitude, the way they carry themselves, the way they seem to own the offices they occupy and believe that it is theirs at the exclusion of the public, forgetting that Article 1 of the Constitution, we donate this power to them, but we can resort to practice that article through them, or we can take it back as the people of this country. But let me say one thing that seems to worry me. We don't seem to have understood what the young people of Kenya have told us. But they put it very well, very clearly. There are about 10 or so issues. If the government of the day was able to be promising us that the next recruitment of the military is going to be fair, such that each constituency gets the right number of people to be employed, it will be stemming down this. Because you see, yesterday the president was talking in one part of Bomet, but as he was trying to cross, he was being booed by the same people that he believes there is bedrock, the Kalenjins. You see, initially they were saying, oh, in Eldoret there are some non-Kalenjins who are doing the demonstrations. But in Bomet, there is no tea estate on the side of Bomet, on the lower side. So those are not Kisis, they are not Luos, they are not Kikuyus. These are Kalenjins, the Kipsigis of the area. So these are, we are pretending not to address the problem. And I saw it with, what do you call the guy? Mobutu Sese Seko. Even when he was being overthrown and the boys were shooting as they were getting close to the palace, he was told, these are our boys coming back to celebrating their win. Until the old man realized it's not the win. It is that we are being evicted from power. We don't want the president to be evicted. We want him to take full term up to 2027. But in the intervening period, he must be responsive to the pulse rate of the nation.
Okay. And we have like 2 minutes only to conclude the show. So I'll give you about 45 seconds for your final word.
Just to say that Parliament, beginning with the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senate, must look in the mirror and see what Parliament is meant to be and what are the functions of Parliament, and not to lend Parliament to the whims of the executive, so that Parliament is told, turn left, turn right, do this. That's the death of democracy. So we have been focusing on the executive, but I agree with you. Parliament must take responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
Parliament is sad. They can open tomorrow. We still remember they were paid to pass the finance bill. To Kenyans, is an open market. They are resuming their stalls to start trading again. And this is what the Gen Zs are talking about. This is why the president has this confidence that he can sack, dismiss, and return them back, because his parliament, that is in his pocket, is going to pass the names. And behind the curtains, I can tell you that there was a rumor, political rumor, that he had hoped that my party leader, being the person he is, was going to help as he pushes for his list. Those others were going to pass together. So Parliament, the leadership has to change. The speakers probably have to listen, but it will take the grace of God. Okay. Thank you.
Finally, Manakirwa.
Let's pray for this country. Let's pray for the president. And we pray for the GNC so that we lose fewer lives in the streets. And we pray for the police also to realize that they have a duty and they will be ultimately held to account as individually.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Cabinet Minister for Agriculture, Samuel Pogisio, former Minister for ICT, and Honorable Dr. Mumbingaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, our panelists this morning and every other Monday on State of the Nation. As we take a look at the big headlines this morning, my favorite one on the Standard, Raila this way, Raila that way. Well, my name is Freddy Ndimuli. After the break, a lot more happening with my colleague Stanley Nyaringita. There is a discussion on the importance of eye care and another one on men's mental health talk. Do stand by for that and a lot more. Good morning.